So I'll start off by saying I did really like the first Aquaman film. It's kind of like Game of Thrones underwater. There's all these things about like you're the king of Atlantis. No, I don't want to be the king. You have to be the king. You have to unite the kingdoms. It works, and lots of underwater CGI battles. Huge success for Warner Brothers and DC. Over $1 billion movie. I'll start off by saying this movie is terrible. The next one, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. The plot is incredibly complicated and convoluted. It deals with Black Manta, the villain from the first movie, has acquired the Black Trident, which kind of gives him power, and he's going to take over the world. And it does some real on the nose storytelling with he gets the Black Trident, and then it tells him to like get this secret fuel, and when he burns the fuel, it heats up the planet, and it's like, okay, we get that it's a climate change allegory, but it's just so on the nose. It's really embarrassing. It's also kind of just a ripoff of Lord of the Rings. The Trident kind of possesses whoever touches it. Several other people touch it, and they're possessed, and it's a little bit like the One Ring, and you got to kind of destroy it in the end to get away from everything. The plot is nonsensical. It's really hard to follow. There's a million VFX shots. It's like they saw that everyone liked that from the first movie and just decided to turn it up to 11. Amber Heard is in this a lot more than I thought she would because she was not asked to do any marketing, but she's in like 2/3 of the film. It's fine. The last like big battle scene is fine, but it's just like, man, this is so bad, and I'm glad that James Gunn and DC are taking over.
So a bit of a runtime, 2 hours, 4 minutes, which I think is shorter than the previous Aquaman, right? Like by just a little bit. Is the pacing real rough? I mean, do you feel like you're tuned in the whole time? Are you getting up and going to the bathroom? Like how checked out of this movie are you, or checked in really?
I mean, it's rough. It in the Flash, how it's kind of boring in the first third with the Barry on Barry kind of hijinks. We get a lot of that. One of the plot points is that Aquaman has to team up with Ocean Master from the first film, played by Patrick Wilson, and of course he's in like desert prison, so he has to go rescue him. So there's essentially a side quest for the first half of the movie before things really get going, and it tries to be a buddy, kind of a buddy cop comedy. Patrick Wilson's super serious, and I have to get back and return the throne. And Jason Momoa is doing his bohemian thing, which, by the way, he's not in costume a lot of the movie, and he looks like he just showed up. It didn't go to wardrobe, just walked on with whatever he wears because he dresses so bohemian, like as a default.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure he gets a lot of input into the character. I think he helped produce the script for it, so that would make sense. But similar to like Fast X, right? Like it seemed like Jason Momoa just showed up in whatever he was wearing that day, and that's what we're filming. I want to talk about practical effects. Like I know a lot of the film is easy to write off as CGI, big blockbuster.
What practical effects?
Well, there's also a lot of stuff like them in rain, or I know they were doing a lot of filming in water tanks and developed this like camera rig system that they were working with. Like, does that stuff feel apparent when you're watching it? Do you feel the movie magic, or is it just like, I don't know, shameless comic?
Oh, not at all. Okay. Not at all. It looks like you're on screen all the time. And again, they know that people like the big action sequences in the first film, and so it seems like they just tried to have a CGI action sequence every 5 minutes, and it just kind of got overwhelming. Again, you didn't have enough time to develop personalities and plot and story. Randall Park is randomly in this, essentially playing the same character he does in the MCU films, kind of just like this goofball scientist that works for Black Manta. Really bizarre role for him. It completely doesn't work. Nicole Kidman is back.
I was gonna say, I think this is the second sequel Nicole Kidman's ever done, which is crazy.
Yeah, must have given her boatloads of money. Like I said, the plot is completely nonsensical and also overcomplicated because it does have that like Game of Thrones, like real complicated, like these families and these places and these relics and items, and there's the history of Atlantis, all this kind of background stuff. Like I said, it kind of pulls together in the last big sequence, like the last big fight at the end is kind of cool, but man, like getting there is painful. Aquaman also has a son now, and that's a big plot point because his son is kidnapped by Black Manta because he needs blood of the air, something like that.
Yeah, this just sounds too. I mean, it's funny
like
when you were. Yeah,
it's every fantasy trope you've ever heard underwater.
Right. It was funny when you were describing the plot. You said it's too complicated. Black Manta gets this trident that's possessed people, but then he's got to get this fuel to do this. And I was like, oh God, yeah, just the trident was enough. Like that was the money. You could have just stopped there. He's got an evil thing and it possesses you, whatever. Like, boy, we go all the way around the bend. But they want it to feel big and epic, and in that way, I want to know. It's a bit of a DCEU send-off, right? A little bit like DC Cinematic Unit, DCCU Cinematic Universe. I'm not even sure what they call it anymore. Like, how does it feel in that way? Does this feel like a big boisterous something? Does it feel like the Flash and Batman did, or is it its own beast? James Wan's assumedly last DC movie, right? Like, how's that?
I mean, it's bad. Like this is worse than the Flash easily. Like, I don't want to watch the Flash again, but I would watch the Flash again before watching this. Like, it's painful. And the first Aquaman, it had some good moments. There's, part of the when we're creating the villain in that first movie, he kind of leaves Aquaman and his dad to die, and he says, "You killed innocent people. You ask the sea for mercy." And I was like, "Oh, that's actually a great line." And we have some moments in that, and then, oh man, it's so derivative. It's so just like filmed by committee and filmed by executives in suits is what it feels like. And
I want to know if any
bad, and it looks pretty expensive.
I want to know, what talent do you think is getting burned by this? Like, as far as I know, James Wan probably isn't doing any more DC movies. Maybe he will pen something with James Gunn, but it seems like Jason Momoa is probably going to be pivoting out of Aquaman into possibly another character they have. I heard Patrick Wilson was good, but I want to know about our boy Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Amber Heard, Nicole Kidman. Where are they at? And are they doing any more movies? Are they Hollywood washouts? Like, is this not going to touch them at all?
Yahya Mateen, I think is going to keep doing some really good stuff. He's a really popular actor right now. Amber Heard does not have anything on the upcoming slate, and she essentially hasn't done anything besides the superhero stuff she was already contractually obligated to do since the very public trials involving her and Johnny Depp. So, I mean, she's got nothing coming up. Nicole Kidman's fine. I don't think her and a lot of other people were actually on set for a lot of stuff. There's a whole lot of like pasting their faces on a stunt double's body or some other hapless actor's body. Like it looks bad a lot of times.
It reminds me of Michael Douglas and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Like, there are literal scenes where it's like, he's not even there, dude. Like, his character will be turned away the whole scene. I'm like, that's not even him. That's a stunt double, you know? Like, just getting the paycheck, right? Just Nicole Kidman knocking it out. Well, bit of a bummer to hear about, I think, especially because you were a fan of the first one. I know it did pretty well. Performance-wise, how do we think this one is doing versus the previous one? I mean, is it what do you think, a long, slow death?
No, it's a bomb out of the gate. I mean, they're saying it's done a little bit better than the Marvels, which was also a bomb. But again, this was $1 billion property 5 years ago, and you waited so long to put out your sequel that the superhero craze is kind of over in a lot of ways.
Mm. I guess before we wrap it up, a silly question, but I'm curious. Since we've been posting these reviews on YouTube, very few people watch to the end, but often when somebody disagrees with what we say, they hit the comments quickly. I got to know, Andy, for those who maybe heard the first few minutes of this and heard you say it was terrible and immediately scrolled down to say you're wrong, any closing thoughts just for them, I guess? Like, what do you think? Should they watch the movie again? Are you crazy? Where you at?
It's a kind of thing where you go to YouTube and just ask for the highlights. Say, search for Aquaman 2 Final Battle, and that's all you need to watch. The performances are fine, just the story's all over the place. They're spending way too much money on SFX. It doesn't work. A lot of it looks bad. It's just long and boring. But yeah, just watch the action sequences on YouTube when it comes out.
Andy, would you recommend Aquaman 2?
No, hard pass. The hardest of passes. Don't watch it on streaming. Don't pay. Don't be like me and be a sucker and pay to go see it. Definitely skip it.